Good morning, guys. Just jumping on here from Framed HQ to let you know that for the next 2 weeks, we're going to be committing double jeopardy. We've got a couple of things in the works, but we needed to have a little minute to make sure we were rested for the next part of season 2. So for the next 2 weeks, enjoy an episode that you may have missed, and we will see you in a couple of weeks with brand new content. All right, enjoy. And welcome to Framed.
Canvas, cuffs, and
other stuffs. This podcast is about crime.
And art.
And our crime.
Wake up. Pay attention.
We've got art.
And it's juicy. Hello.
Hello, little Bowery.
Twist the bones and bend the back. Hitchika kalaka malaka mystica. Trim him of his baby fat. Hitchika kalaka malaka mystica. Give him fur black as black. Just like this. Now you're all cats, because hocus pocus.
I like that you knew it word for word.
And witch vibes.
Yeah. Down the road.
Down the witch's
road has been stuck in my head.
So you've been watching Agatha all along?
Yes.
Thank God for that. It is so good.
It's so good.
It's so gay.
Okay, so there's mystery, there's witches, there's gay.
So many lesbian undertones.
And Patti LuPone. So it's the perfect show.
My one qualm, episodes are a bit too short.
Yes.
Needs about 15, 20 more minutes.
Give me more.
I watched The Penguin and it was like I was in a full feature-length film on episode 1.
Yeah, so give me more witches.
Yeah.
I also
and more Aubrey Plaza.
Yeah, she's so good.
Yeah.
They're all good. More Patti, like all of them. Just give me 17 seasons.
Yeah, it's very good. And it's like, it's cheesy. It's not too much to think about.
Yeah.
It's just such an easy watch.
And it is all practical effects, which I thought was a lot of it is practical effects. That's why it feels like old schooly.
They got that Disney.
They got
money.
that Disney
they got that
money.
Disney Marvel money.
Yeah, I like. There was like in my mind, like when it first started, I was like, all right, the lesbians kind of popped their heads up like little meerkats, being like, oh, okay, what's going on here? Then by the latest episode, it was kind of
I think they're all gay.
Yeah. By the latest episode, it was just like, you know that meme, like, let's go lesbians, let's go. It was like, round them up, we're in. So, yeah, I've been loving it.
Oh, I'm so excited that you're watching it.
It's my recommendation for the week. Please watch. Please go and watch it and enjoy.
Also, so we realized last week that we were like, okay, well, depending on what order this all comes out in.
Yeah.
Because we're not quite sure, but this is the episode where we realized
this is the last
October
episode.
actually has 5 Wednesdays in it, which means we said we were going to do we said we were going to do Halloween episodes the entire of October, thinking there'd only be 4. But October got spooky. We got tricked. We got tricked, and you get treated by having a 5th episode, whether it's this one or another one we've recorded.
You know what? You'll find out.
You will find out. We'll never tell.
So this is a little bonus extra Halloween episode, I guess.
And can I just say we both really turned it out
today. If you have not seen on socials or on YouTube yet, you can watch us and we look great.
We are dressed up every episode.
And you know what? This episode might be one of the best.
Ooh. And for those listening, Steph is dressed as a fabulous witch. Mm-hmm. You can't go wrong with classic witch.
No, I think classic witch is always a good call.
Witch, please.
And also everything was in my wardrobe bar the hat. So What does that tell you about me?
And what am I, you ask? I'm like a Lee Bowery club kid. This is all the things that I like out of my partner's drag room in an outfit.
I'd say very party monster.
Club kid.
Club kid.
Yes.
What would you like to recommend to the people this week, Joel?
Well, lately I've been like really releasing my inhibitions and feeling the rain on my skin.
Oh.
And I've enrolled myself into dance classes. So I've been doing dance lessons the past like month and a bit.
Amazing.
Every single week. I just got bored with doing gym and just being on a treadmill, doing boring cardio, all that kind of stuff. So I went to a dance class and then decided that's going to be my cardio all the time now. So now I go to these dance classes. I don't care if I like pick it up like every single lesson. Everyone's there. It's like such a community of like straight up beginners to people who can, learn choreography like the back of their hand. But it's just so much fun and it's such good like cardio. And at my age, I just, I always say you should just dance like no one's watching.
Oh,
I don't know if you've heard that before.
I've never heard that saying before. That's nice.
I'll coin that.
Yeah, good. You should TM that. Like.
So that's what I've been doing.
I love it.
Except I look at the floor when I dance, I've been told. But if I look in the mirror, I get really discombobulated.
And you just like...
Because I'm seeing
just
30 other people
the person
around me.
next to you.
Yeah. And also, like, I'm bad at spins. So if I spin around, I end up on the other side of the room. Somehow, I don't know.
Magic.
But yeah, I've been dancing.
I love
and it's been
this.
so much fun. And I just don't care what anyone thinks. I'm just there to have a good time.
Yeah.
So I'm really like in my era of just doing what I want to do, not giving two hoots and just trying to have a bit of fun.
I love it. Hence
in this
the outfit.
crazy world.
This
crazy world.
This world. How long are we going to last? I don't know.
So while we're here,
enjoy
dance.
it.
Dance the
Like-
dance of life. God, I always pick the most like fiddly face thing. The Florence wig was one thing. Now this one keeps just riding up into my eyeballs.
Well, if you need to take it off at some point.
No.
Committed to the bit.
Yes.
In a shock to no one, this episode, we're going to be talking about witches.
Yes.
So we're going to...
I thought it might be witches. When I woke up this morning, I'm like, I wonder if we're going to talk about witchcraft.
Witchcraft.
Yes.
Ooh. So we're going to talk a little bit about when witches were first shown in art in Western culture.
Love it.
And then we're going to dive into a couple of witchy artists who should be more well known, in my opinion.
Oh, I've got a few that just sprung to mind.
Ooh.
Yep. Oh, I'm so excited.
So tell me about what you know about witches, Joel.
Misunderstood females throughout generations who were very victimized early on for thinking outside of the box.
Yes.
I would say.
Yeah.
But no, I think witchcraft has so many different variations out there. There's like, healing Wicca energy and then more Satan-y kind of witches. More I put a curse on you.
Yeah.
But I believe that there are people around who think that they're witches.
Yeah. I believe in witchy things.
I believe in witchy things.
And you know what? It makes life a little bit more fun, I think.
Yeah.
Like when you can just be like, I'm just going to, like, I'm not.
Do I believe in witchy things? Maybe.
TBC.
TBC.
We'll let you know.
Yeah.
Maybe by the end of this episode, you'll believe a little bit more.
I believe in like energies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I'm not too sure. I haven't spent too much time thinking about witches.
Okay. Well, let's spend some time.
Yes.
Yes. One of the first depictions of witches was in France in the margins of a poem in 1451. Now, before we jump into everything, I'm going to say this is we're doing like the Western side of witches. So like this is a bit more of Westernized culture. Witches are obviously depicted in many different ways in many different cultures. We could do a literal full podcast series on witches.
Yeah. Actually, as you say that, there's actually a 1400s woodcut of Madonna terrorizing a group of small children. She was believed to be a witch in that time.
I mean, she's sucking the souls to stay youthful. I like that we just have a look.
It's been a minute.
It's been
You had to.
There'll be a few pictures and you can say, this one's Madonna, I reckon. I'm going to show you the picture. This is in Western culture the first time a witch was shown on a broomstick.
Witches love broomsticks.
Witches
classically
love broomsticks. So this is the first depiction of witches.
Oh, she's really riding that thing, isn't she?
Oh, you'll see a few more that get a little bit more in depth.
Heavens to Betsy.
So this was in 1451 and it was in the margins of a book from France. Now, the reason why witch
I guess, the witch vibe spread was because at the time the printing press was starting to print things. So information was starting to spread quicker.
Okay.
So things like the Bible were getting spread, but also a book called, and I'm going to mispronounce it, but here we go, Malleus Maleficarum, which sounds witchy, but it is essentially
gorgeous name for a girl.
Malleus Maleficarum.
Yeah. Lewis McCarman.
Lewis. So essentially what this was called the witch's hammer, and it was about how to find a witch and then like how witchcraft was evil. So this was the first time that people had had associated witchy things or healing or anything like that as something evil or something maybe a little bit sinister.
This might be a dumb question, but you said like this is when the Bible was like
starting to kind of be distributed.
So the Bible was distributed in the 14.
Yeah, so around the 1400s was when the printing press was kind of created, which meant information could be.
So before that, was it all in like script?
Yeah. So what would happen is either people would literally hand write out every single copy, and then so you might hand write out the book, and then like that one person would take that information to like one place.
Gotcha.
Whereas this became a more mass-produced kind of way to distribute information because you could just print repeatedly.
So anyone could get their paws on the Bible.
Yeah, a lot more people could. So yeah, it meant that information was easier to spread. So this was one of the things that got spread at the time.
The Bible must have been like a bestseller.
Oh, it was the number one
like
book.
The Philosopher's Stone.
Everyone was like, I've got to get my hands. They were going to the openings. Like, remember, like you had, like they'd open it up.
Jesus is signing the books.
He's like, all right, who am I making this out to? Karen.
I hope you like it.
Yeah, so let me know what you think.
It's one of my most personal stories.
This one called Sorcery a Crime.
Ooh.
And it recommended that courts prosecute people, aka women, and torture them to get confessions around if they were witches or not.
Yeah.
So not the best. It also put into the mind that any woman who was a little bit promiscuous or maybe sex crazed was, potentially a witch. And we'll find that seems to happen a lot in this story. So at the time, because no social media, no one's watching TV. What are you talking about? So all of the stuff happening within little towns, it was like family feuds. And so rumor mills would start a lot quicker because that's all they had to focus on.
Yeah, yeah.
Essentially, there were different, I guess, witch hunts across history, but they were in Europe and America specifically, and witches were believed to have made a pact with the devil, and that's why they were witches. So they would make a pact with the devil, and by making a pact with the devil, they got powers in return.
Sounds cool to me.
I know. Bring it on, little devil man. So from the 15th to the 17th centuries, witchcraft was illegal. Imprisonment was usually carried out, and then execution by hanging or burning. So witches at the stake. Fun.
Just sounds all like an excuse for men to have control over women.
Oh yeah, it's 100% this. It was like, oh, you're a little bit different. You must be a witch.
What
Let's
about
get rid of you.
wizards? What about warlocks?
What about all these warlocks?
They were fine. They were just walking around.
No one burning them at the stake. In 1497, an artist named Ulbrich Duper, which is a German artist, created two famous works that kind of kick off this witchy artwork kind of phenomenon. So if you swipe to your next photo, this is the first one. It's called The Four Witches.
I love it.
Tell the people what you see, Joel.
This is 100% the type of art that I like. So I see four bare naked ladies, not the band, but four ladies in kind of like an etching style of artwork, which I love. They are just standing in a circle. They seem to be just, checking each other out. Oh, there's a skull on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
So they're surrounding a skull that's on the floor. They're looking very like, I just love the shading and the like muscles and the bones.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's so nice. There's a little lion or something in the corner.
Yep.
Holding something. I think he's in flames. That might be a devil-y thing.
Yeah, he's suspected to be the devil.
He doesn't look that intimidating. He looks quite small.
Hello. Just popping in.
Looks like my cat. And there's some kind of like lamp above them or an orb.
Yeah.
That says 1491 OGH. They don't look too threatening to me.
They're not too threatening.
Like 4 girls just having a good time.
4 girls having a little gossip.
Yeah.
So obviously the women are positioned in a small interior space. You clock the devil to the side, which made us believe that these are witches because they're talking to the devil. The devil's around. There's also strings and bones and things around them, which could insinuate that they had maybe performed some kind of ritual. So there's the devil's form in the corner, and the differing hairstyles of the women suggest the women are from different social classes, which I thought was very interesting.
Oh, yes.
So they're not all like, proper women. Some of them might be a bit more
like handmaiden.
Yeah. So in art history, obviously historians go around and they kind of give their opinion. There's no consensus to whether this subject matter is intended to be witches, but everything points to it associating with that. And at the time, because we know witch hunting was starting to kind of pick up, we know that this was probably what was happening.
And the fact that they're in like a small little space means like this is like a little secret
meeting and, bones, things like that. Now, this artist also created a second work. So if you want to flick to the next one.
Oh, I love it. Oh, this is awesome.
So this is his second work.
This is what I want my tattoos to look like. Maybe not so many naked babies, but should I describe what I'm seeing?
Yeah, tell the people what you see.
Okay, there is a woman riding a goat backwards. She looks so not the right word to use, but she's being depicted, I guess, as a hag.
Yeah, she is.
But yeah, she's riding this goat backwards, which is an interesting way to ride it. She's got her hand on one of the goat's horns. There's a bunch of little like cherub babies underneath the goat who seem like they might be in a bit of distress. They're like kind of falling over themselves and just flopping about with their little wings. That's all I'm kind of noticing. The witch is holding some kind of stick with some cloth and twine at the end. I'm curious to see what that would mean. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, so this is, I guess, screaming to the promiscuousness of witches and women. So obviously she's holding the broom suggestively, like why is the broom in between her crotch?
Oh yes, it is going into
straight
her,
into
between
the
me
vajuts.
down there.
Yeah, straight into the vajuts. Also, she's holding the horn almost as if she could be giving the goat a hand job through the horn.
She is too.
So obviously sex-crazed woman. Goats at the time represented devils in the painting, so she's jerking off the devil. We love to see it.
I do have one tattooed on my arm.
The jerking off or the devil? So you'll also notice that the direction of the goat, the woman's hair is actually moving in the opposite direction of what it should be, which represents that maybe there's some kind of mystical magic happening around her.
Spooky.
The boys are actually carrying alchemist pots, which would have been used to create potions. And also it was believed at the time that witches would, in order to make a pact with the devil, would sacrifice children.
Okay.
So she's probably sacrificing these bad boys.
Right.
These kind of images from the 1400s till about the 1600s, a lot of the images of witches were, as you mentioned, and probably not the right word to use, but the women are usually haggard. They're usually, a little bit maybe less pleasing on the eye than we know now. You know, they are made to look somewhat grotesque, masculine bodies, droopy boobs, like all of these things, that old crone kind of vibe. Old crone.
Yes, that was the word I was looking for earlier.
So around the 1600s, this changes. I also just wanted to throw in the next piece just because I thought you'd like it. So this one is so if you flick across.
Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
So this is by Goya.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
And Goya did a whole heap of works, which we can't go into today, but I'm sure at one point we will. But Goya did a whole heap of works around witches and witchcraft. And
this is my favorite kind of art.
yeah, it's so
Love
good.
it.
Mystical and magical. And from this piece, you can tell us what you see, but do you recognize any, like, this one I just included in because I thought you'd like it.
It looks like the Big God music video
It's
from Florence and the
exactly what it
Machine.
reminds me of.
Oh.
As soon as I saw it, I went, hang on a second.
I love this.
So Goya did a whole series of works that was around witches. This one's probably my favorite of all of his, and it was also the one that I went, that's just a Florence music video. So,
I want this framed. For reference, the Florence and the Machine video has we'll probably put something up, but in this image there's 3 floating kind of clownish characters in 3 different pastel colors, kind of taking this person up with them who seems like they're in a bit of distress. And there's a man below kind of wandering around looking like he doesn't know where he's going. There's a donkey on the side. But yeah, the Florence and the Machine video has these women dressed in these pastel colors and they're floating up and down.
And the caster down the bottom is what I believe the colors that Florence wears in the video. So it's is she the witch casting the spell over these helpers? Are they all witches together in a coven?
Oh, I love it. I love this.
This piece is I just love it. Talk about this piece. Tell the people what you see, Joe.
I am seeing something going down in a courtroom. So there is a lady who seems like she's at the testimonial booth. She's conjuring up some lightning strikes from outside of the courthouse, which seem to have everyone aghast. And
she's a witch.
And they're watching her power unfold. She's broken. She had some shackles around her arms and they're flying across the room. This seems to have been too much for the man in the middle and he has fainted. And yeah, beautiful shading, just a dramatic scene all around. She looks awesome. I love it.
So this piece is probably one of the most famous depictions of the Salem witch trials.
Right.
So it was actually created in 1892 and is called Witch Number 1 by J.E. Baker. However, the piece was not actually painted at the time of the Salem witch trials. So the Salem witch trials happened between 1692 and 1693, and this was painted in 1892. However, a lot of images of the Salem witch trials were created many years after. So
right.
Around the 1800s is when we started to kind of create artwork based on the Salem witch trials. So because we've got this light little touch of Salem witch trials, let's talk about them because they're so...
I don't know much about them, to be honest.
It's very interesting. So 1600s, before we jump in, I'm going to tell you what kind of crime, the hierarchy of crimes in America at the time. So this was the hierarchy of from the most heinous of crimes to the least. So number 1 was adultery. Number 2 was witchcraft. Number 3.
Number 2?
Yeah. Number 3 was blasphemy. Number 4 was murder.
Blasphemy is that Lord's name in vain
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
yeah.
Oh, for God's sake.
4 was murder. 5 was poisoning.
4 was murder.
Yep. So if you were
I feel
being
like
a
murder
witch,
and poisoning should be in the
same category, but apparently not. So yeah,
witchcraft at number 2.
Yeah.
They need to get the priorities in order.
They do. The Salem witch trials were a series of hearings and prosecutions of people accused of witchcraft in colonial Massachusetts. More than 200 people were accused in this 1-year period, and 30 people were found guilty. 19 were executed by hanging. Most of them were just tortured. The rest were kind of just tortured, and a couple of them just died in the jails because it was just so gross.
Poor ladies.
So the reason why this all kicked off, so interestingly, is that the Salem witch trials actually kind of happened after the kind of panic and witch panic that kind of swept the world.
Yeah, right.
So there's a whole bunch of different kind of witch trials that happened worldwide, but this happened towards the end of it when everyone was kind of like, all right, we're kind of over the whole witch thing. It's not probably a real thing.
Yeah.
Somehow in Salem, Massachusetts, they were like, nah, we're doing it.
It came back around like Blair jeans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is like a rumor, but it's unconfirmed, that there might have been something in the soil and like the wheat crops were giving off some kind of, poisonous or maybe a mild.
Oh, they're all going cuckoo bananas.
But unconfirmed, allegedly. Don't come for us, Salem. But yeah, so it's weird that this happened. Very strange. And
we're just bored.
Yeah. Like, what else is there to do?
Oh.
It's like, what am I going to do?
Play with little hay dolls.
Like,
little corn husk dolls.
It's like, no, I'm going to start fucking with.
She's a witch.
Hey, that one. Get her. So I think, and from memory, I read the stats, but I think around 90,000 people worldwide were killed for being witches.
Oh, ouch.
And predominantly 80% were women. So there was a few men accused, and it would be no surprise to me if those men were homosexuals.
Yeah, I feel like the ones who'd be getting into that kind of thing would be.
You'll find a lot of these witches are spinsters and unmarried. So I think that says a lot.
So it's gays and their friends.
Yeah. Exactly right. Yeah. It's just, Covens is just lezzies in a bar, really. So the trials began after a few local women in Salem were accused of witchcraft by 4 young girls.
Young girls. Stupid little kids.
Little kids saying she did it.
Ugh.
So apparently the girls had become possessed. They screamed, they threw things around the room, they uttered strange sounds, they crawled under furniture, which is just
what I did.
any kid throwing a tantrum.
Any kid, yeah.
So they also complained of being pinched and pricked with pins constantly. And the first 3 people accused and were arrested were Elizabeth Hubbard, Sarah Good, Sarah Osborne, and Tituba.
I went to school with a Sarah Osborne.
Oh, was she a witch reincarnated?
No, she sung lots.
Maybe
that's
she's
down.
She's just singing that. You're like, I thought I'd heard that song before.
Oh, her name was Sarah Osborne. Never mind.
Oh God. Some historians believe that the accusation by Anne Putman, the 12-year-old, suggested that there might have just been a family feud. So they think that the parents might have been like, accuse her of being a witch. And it was just because they were this family was feuding with another family and they were just like, witch.
How immature.
So annoying.
Grow up. Mind your business.
Yeah. God's sakes, get it together.
Yeah.
Of the accused, Sarah Good was a destitute woman. Sarah Osborne rarely attended church meetings, and Tituba was an enslaved South American woman from the West Indies. So all social outcasts at the time, somewhat. Tituba was a local, I guess, medicine woman, we would probably have called her, and they think that because she was a different ethnicity than everyone else in the town, she was one of the accused because she...
Classic. Any excuse.
Yep. Homophobia and racism strikes again.
Thank God that's all over.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that now. Project 2025. Every person accused went before a court, so they had to go through a trial, which is why we call it the Salem witch trials. And during this frenzied prosecution, it's like if you had a family member who was sick and you accused someone of being a witch, and casting a spell on them because they were sick, they had to go to trial.
That's reason enough.
Which is absolutely wild. It's like, oh, my crops didn't grow properly.
Must
that
be
witch.
Her.
Yeah. Farmer always blames his tools. He's just any problem, blame the witch.
Yeah.
What would happen is that person would be taken to the local court, and then if they thought it was enough to arrest them, then they'd be brought in front for public examination. So essentially that was interrogation by whoever wanted to interrogate them, there would be a judge involved.
What would they be asking?
So there are 7 ways to prove if you're a witch.
Oh.
Have you ever heard of how to be proved to be a witch, or how we would test to see if you were a witch?
No, that's why I just asked. So now this has just rolled on perfectly.
Rolled on perfectly. So probably the most famous of the 7 tests is the swimming test, which essentially is they would bind the woman with ropes and they would throw her into the nearest body of water. She would have been stripped bare, of course, so public humiliation. And then they would throw her into the water to see if she would sink or swim. Or float, I guess.
So she's either going to be a witch and get out, or they've just killed her.
Yeah, literally. So the thought was that the innocent person would sink like a stone.
Thus killing them.
Yep. Or the witch would simply bob to the surface. The thought process behind this was that witches would can't be baptized, so she would float to the surface because she hadn't been baptized.
That's so dumb. That is so dumb. Because even if she was a witch and bobbed to the surface or whatever, what? Oh, you got me. And she dies anyway. So either it was a lose-lose.
It was a lose-lose. Or you're just – so apparently they would have like a cord attached to the witch, but I believe some people did drown because they sunk to the bottom.
Oh, my God.
So that was
idiots. Stupid idiots.
Stupid people in the 1400s.
You know, we would have had relatives from back then.
Yeah.
Around these times.
Yeah. Yep. Dummies.
Yeah.
Dumb dummies.
Joel and Steph watching these trials, being like, ugh.
We were smoking.
We've got cigarettes.
Just like, oh, another one bites the dust. Better go back to the coven. Cast another potion. Oh dear. So number 2, the second way to prove if you're a witch or not was the prayer test. So witches were thought to be incapable of speaking the scriptures or Bible aloud.
Okay.
Burn their tongue because they're obviously with the devil. So they would ask the woman to recite the Lord's Prayer without making any mistakes or stuttering or anything like that.
That's a bit less stakes than being hurled into a pond.
Problem with that is at the time a lot of women were illiterate because not going to school, are you? Because you're A, a woman, and B, no one's really teaching you to read, so you're set up to fail.
Oh, crap.
Yeah, so if you stumbled or even if you kind of went or paused or anything like that, they would just be like, she's a witch.
Just like, our Father, excuse me, God in heaven.
Yeah, witch!
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's pretty wild and set up to fail.
Hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
If only they had that song.
Yeah, that's how you remember it.
So the third test was the touch test. So a witch's victim would usually show signs of pain or being under a spell. It was believed if a witch touched their victims, the spell would be broken. And so that would prove that they were a witch. But if they touched the victim and they were still in the spell, not a witch.
So the sick person, the supposed witch, would go touch them.
Yeah.
And then if they're all like, oh, I feel better, then they're the witch.
Mm-hmm.
And then if the sick person is still sick when they touch them, they're not a witch.
Yeah. Problem is a lot of people thought that people who
That's the one I would want to do.
Yeah. So the only caveat with that is a lot of people who were accusing the witch, if they were like shaking and convulsing, were faking. So
then they would just be, ooh,
yeah. You can't win.
Sucks to be a witch.
Sucks to be a witch back then.
Woman. It sucks to be a woman back then.
It sucks to be a woman at any point. This one is one of my like favorites because it's so bizarre.
Yeah.
So they would make witch cakes.
Oh.
So what they would do, so what they would do is they would take the victim of the witch, they would take some of their urine,
Oh, yeah.
bake it into a cake, then they would feed the cake to a dog,
Yep.
and if the dog would die or fall under the witch's spell, it would speak and reveal the witch's name because dogs were thought to be familiars.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense. That makes the most sense.
So that makes perfect sense.
That one I can get down with.
Urine in the cake.
Yeah.
If
dog
the
starts talking.
Witch.
Yeah.
So makes sense.
That's the one I would want to see happen the most.
Yeah.
Like if I was a townsperson.
Like if we were sitting in the
I'd
corner.
be like, can we do the witch cakes?
Guys, I think witch cakes
I think
are
we should do the witch cakes one.
Stop suggesting
the
witch cakes,
We
Joel.
can't do that all the time.
We've only got a certain amount of wheat.
I want to see a dog talk.
Number 5 was witch marks. So the suspected witch would be stripped in front of a group of people and her body would be examined. If there was a blemish or mark on your body, it was suggested or suspected that the devil had made that mark on your body when you made the pact. So if you had a birthmark, a mole, any kind of imperfection, you were classed a witch.
It's all very sad, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is when you really look back at it. And then also if you had a third nipple, straight up witch.
Well,
yeah.
Kind of how I think too.
The reasoning was they thought that the third nipple for the witch would feed their familiar. So their little dogs are suckling on their third titty.
Yep.
Sucking on my titties like you want to be calling me. Oh, yeah. So that was number 5. Number 6 was the pricking test. So they would take a needle, prick the witch's skin. If she didn't bleed, witch.
Okay.
The problem with that is they dulled all the needles that they were pricking the witches. So the person.
If they want these witches or supposed witches dead so bad, why do they even
kill
bother?
them.
Just kill them.
Kill them. It's easier.
Do all these silly little games.
I know.
You're going to kill them anyway.
What else are you going to do? Go to the town hall and see if the witch is bleeding.
Yeah. Just cruel.
It is. It is. And the 7th was the incantations test. The witch would be asked to call on the devil to free the victim from the spell. If the victim broke out of a trance.
Dee.
Hey.
You won't believe the situation I'm in.
Do you mind coming up?
I know you're so busy.
But do you mind just like breaking this spell?
Yeah.
And then also killing everyone around me because I'm going to die regardless. If the person broke out of the trance, the person was a witch. A lot of witchy things happening. That's how we'd prove if you were a witch. So if we go back, there were the women who were accused of putting these girls under their trance. They were all proven to be witches. And in this time, at least 20 people were hung and or burned at the stake, but a lot of them in Salem were hung.
Yeah.
There was Elizabeth, Bassett, Abigail Faulkner, Sarah, Rebecca, Susanna, all of these women. And there was one man named John Proctor who was accused of being a witch as well. So.
Goody Proctor. What does that mean? I've heard people say Goody Proctor before. Because I went to a show last night, a Fringe Festival show, and the drag queen's name was Goody Prostate. Oh, and the Crucible. Gotcha.
Within this time, all of these women were executed and found guilty and hung. Although the last trial was held in May of 1693, a memorial wasn't put in place until about 300 years later, where Massachusetts went, oh, we messed up.
Oopsie, we killed a whole bunch of women.
Sorry. What they did was witches weren't allowed to be buried in marked graves. They were only allowed to be buried in unmarked graves. So
I've heard that.
They set up a memorial in Salem where there's like I think 20 benches around which had the names of the women who had been by hanging. So that's the Salem witch trials and how you got found to be a witch.
Well, at least they got benches.
At least you know what? They may not have lived a full life.
No, but they got
benches. So
and now Salem relishes in the fact that they were a witch town.
Yeah, so they do a lot of things obviously around this time of year. I would love to go.
Same.
And they have the witches, what they class as the witch's house, which was the house I believe that they held a lot of the trials in. So,
but isn't it ironic, don't you think, that the thing that they like despised most in the town
is now the thing that
keeps
the town alive. It's like a witch cast a spell on them.
Totes want to go to Salem.
Meet some witches.
Yeah. In autumn time around Halloween.
Yeah, Halloween. That would be Halloween. Amazing. So that is the Salem Witch Trials.
Interesting. Sad, but interesting.
Yes.
And annoying.
Yeah.
Like I'm angry.
Like, come on.
I'm angry for these ladies.
Yeah. Like they were probably just like, guys, we're just trying to live. Like, let us just
sound like a bunch of bored townsfolk.
I don't think there was much happening back then. So you got to do something, keep yourself entertained.
Yeah, exactly.
And witches, by all accounts.
Throw a witch in the pond.
Let's do it. Now we're going to talk about a couple of artists who created works and are suspected to be witches.
Yes.
Kiki, you can't have Joel's coffee.
My familiar. He's my familiar.
Hello. Have you ever had witchy artworks? Do you know of any witches who are creating art?
Are we talking about art like paintings wise?
You can talk about any art, but you can talk about paintings. You can talk about music.
I don't know about art witches who paint. But I know like music artists who
witches.
have witchy vibes.
Yeah.
A la Stevie Nicks.
Yeah, Stevie, the greatest witch of them all.
Yeah.
And I think
Florence even.
Yeah. I think there's something when there's an artist who's kind of like in this little realm all on their own. It's like you're like, you're a witch.
Yeah.
And we're not going to prosecute you like a witch.
If you listen to Tusk by Fleetwood Mac, that is like just such a witchy, like you feel like you're in the forest with a bunch of witches and everyone's having a good time. But yeah, in the witches who create pieces, I'm not that familiar with.
Not that familiar? Well, let's dive in. If you go to your iPad, Joel, there is a picture of a woman named Hilma Ulf Klimt. This lovely lady here. So Hilma is someone that you may not know her name, but you definitely should, because she might have been the mother and creator of abstract art in Western culture.
Oh, okay.
So she was born in Sweden in 1862 and belonged to a group called the Five, comprising of a circle of women inspired by theosophy. All right, which is
sounds right.
Yep, which is the teaching about God and the world based on mystical insights.
Okay.
So it was blending witchcraft and God, which is super interesting.
Get down with that.
Yes. So they shared a belief in the importance of trying to contact the so-called high masters, and often they did this by way of seances. So she would meet with these. The five. And they would conduct ceremonies.
They'd probably stand in a circle.
Yeah. And then like they probably just say all these mumblings and just like light as a feather, stiff as a board, and then all of a sudden they're in the air. So in 1880, her younger sister had passed away, and it was then that Hilma kind of dived into this world of I get my words out today. Spirituality.
Yes.
And began to develop, her sixth sense. The Five were interested in the paranormal. They regularly organized seances, and they opened each meeting with a prayer, followed by a meditation, and then would be followed by a seance, which would be lit.
It just sounds like going to Bikram yoga.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, pretty much. So through her work with the Five, Hilma created completely automatic and experimental drawings as early as 1896, leading towards this kind of visual language that was essentially what she said was her hand was moving, but she was like from other forces. It had nothing to do with hers. So if you want, you can flick to the next picture and you can see one of her paintings.
I don't want to.
You don't? No.
Yeah, I will.
You know what? Actually, no.
Cool.
So these paintings are from a series of works called The Temple. So
very cool. I love this.
Tell people what you see.
I'm seeing very geometric vibes. It's a big circle like a sun, and then a big pyramid or a triangle below it, each column having a different kind of color. very colourful. Giving me kind of like Pink Floyd,
Dark Side of the Moon.
Dark Side of the Moon, mixed with a bit of like Aztec. Yeah, very cool.
Then you can flick to the next one, which is kind of in the similar.
Oh my God, these are fabulous.
Yeah, her stuff's incredible.
Especially for the time.
Yeah, this is
very abstract.
Yeah, 1896, I think.
Seeing a bunch of swirly durlies and florals and spirals. Just a bunch of like random shapes in different colors. Really vibrant. I don't really know how else to explain it.
If you flick to the next one, I've kind of just put that into context for how
beautiful.
big the pieces are. You don't realize when they're just kind of flat on screen, but when you see someone standing next to them, they are huge pieces.
Humongous, and just doesn't look like something that would have come out of that time.
No, it looks like something someone would do now, which is wild. So Hilma felt she was being directed by a force that would literally guide her hand when creating these works. So in 1906, at the age of 44, Klimt painted the first in the series of abstract paintings. The works were called The Temple, and they were created between 1906 and 1915. There is 196 paintings within this like collection of works.
At that big?
A lot of them were that big, yeah.
Wow.
Not all of them, but a lot of them were quite large. When Klimt completed her works for the temple, the spiritual guidance ended. She said she often tried to pursue painting and abstract painting afterwards, but it was never as fluid as it was when she was painting these pieces.
So something was telling her to make
what
those
to do.
pieces.
So in 1908, she actually had a man named Rudolf Steiner who she kind of held in high regard. He was an architect but also an occultist. So, you know, the two worlds blend. And she kind of invited him to come and view the works and tell her what he thought of them.
Yeah.
And he saw 111 paintings and he was pretty unimpressed. And he stated that these kind of workings were inappropriate. He didn't think they were very good.
Inappropriate?
I know. Like
bunch of shapes, man.
Like calm down. It was thought that the magic, I guess, she was alluding to was part of, I guess, a more devilish worship as opposed to like a spiritual high, even though she saw it as spiritual. He kind of was like, I think this is black magic.
Right.
So feedback really made her stop for painting for 4 years. She decided she couldn't paint anymore. She was really disheartened by this feedback.
Take criticism too well.
No, she doesn't. There was also another woman who was I guess, medium at the time. She was, and she said that the works were spooky dooky, and like she was like, I don't think people will understand these for at least another 50 years.
Really?
Yes. Actually, Hilma died in 1944 at the age of 81 after being in a traffic accident, which is really sad. She never married. She lived only with women, and she prioritized deep friendships with them. She's not left any diary entries or letters about her kind of romantic life or rumors that would have swelled at the time. But it was potentially suspected that maybe she was a little bit of a queer lady.
Yeah, I was getting that energy from her photo.
From her photo, yeah. When you see that photo, you're like,
yeah,
this is probably a lesbian.
Yeah.
It was interesting though, in her will, she left all of her abstract paintings to her nephew, but she was very specific. She said her work should be kept secret for at least 20 to 50 years after her death.
Okay.
So she believed these paintings should not have been shown to anyone until the time was right, which is fascinating. So the boxes were opened at the end of the 1960s.
Wait, is that because the person told her these won't be appreciated for this amount of time? So she was like to her nephew, don't show anyone these for this amount of time.
I think also she didn't think the public would appreciate. So she had done a lot of other art, which was a bit more traditional, and that's how she made her money, I guess, to survive. But these particular works, she didn't show many people. We only know this information after the fact.
Yeah, right.
So I think she somewhat knew that she was ahead of her time as well.
Yes.
And that if she showed these, she would be classed as a witch and thrown into the dungeons. Like, you know what I mean? I think she already was living a bit more of an ostracized life anyway, and she probably didn't want to add fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
Her work would remain unseen for 20 years after her death, and all of her works predate abstract art as we know it today. So the question is, did she actually create abstract art, but we just didn't know about it, and people around her probably didn't know about it?
Like, I wouldn't have seen anything like this at the time, especially using those colours as well. It just seems so now.
Seems so current, relevant, modern. So that is Hilma Clint.
Love her.
And she is fab. So, final woman that we're going to talk about. We are going to talk about Pamela Coleman Smith.
Mm-hmm.
So, she's one of the world's most famous occult artists, but her name is pretty much unknown. But 100 million copies of her works reside in homes around the world.
Okay.
The artist named Pamela Coleman Smith is the artist behind what we know today as the traditional tarot deck.
Oh,
yes.
Right.
So,
I've always loved the art that's on tarot cards.
You'll see her little picture there on the iPad.
Oh, she looks nice.
Yeah, by all accounts, she is a very, very nice person.
Can I just say though, like, photos from this day and age, like no one smiles in them, and she's smiling.
She's smiling.
Yeah,
she's having a good time.
Good time.
Most people know the deck as the Rider-Waite Tarot deck. However, the real artist behind it is Pamela. If we go back, the tarot deck was originally kind of made by a French occultist in 1770, but it was kind of more made as like a bit of a game.
Yep.
You know, it doesn't have, I guess, this kind of mysticism that it has today.
Yeah.
I think just over time, people have just attributed it to things.
Mm-hmm.
So the Pamela didn't create her deck until many, 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 many years later. But before we get to that part, let's talk a little bit about her.
Yeah.
So her nickname was Pixie. She was
can see that totally.
Yeah, she was a British artist, illustrator, writer, and publisher. But she was born to wealthy American parents. She lived between Jamaica, America, and then eventually would reside in London for most of her life.
Mm-hmm.
She studied at the New York Pratt Institute, where she showed her watercolors in galleries before moving back to London after her parents had passed away. If you flick, you'll see some of her one of her watercolors. Yes. The kind of, it's got that flowy feeling,
very flowy
to it.
Yep.
Yes.
Gorgeous.
Yeah. I highly recommend because her tarot deck is super beautiful, but I highly recommend going and looking at all of her other works. They are like so beautiful.
Yeah.
There's like this real ethereal, is that? Celestial. Yeah. You know, there's this real magic vibe around them. So when she moved to London, she illustrated over 20 books. She hosted many parties in her London studio, and it became a bit of a hub for people and artists, actors, musicians, all kind of brushing shoulders, like high-low. And also just fun fact, she was best friends with the author of the book Dracula, which I just thought was
Anne Rice? Was that Anne Rice? Maybe not. Bram Stoker.
I did not write down his name.
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Mr. Stoker.
Mr. Dracula man she was friends with. I want to go to that party.
I know. She was friends with a lot of actors as well, apparently. There you go. Yes. You were right, Joel. In 1901, William Yeats introduced Coleman to the Temple of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Say that
Righto.
3 times quickly. Which was a magic order devoted to study the occult and the paranormal. She joined up, but she was kind of like dabbling. She wasn't fully in, she wasn't fully out, but she met a fellow member, A.E. Waite, which is the Rider-Waite of, the tarot deck. There's a few conflicting pieces of information around him. It is unclear whether he was the leader of this group or if he was just a member of this group, but he obviously saw the talent that Pamela had.
Yeah. They became kind of like besties.
Yeah, they became interested, and he was working on the tarot deck and wanting to republish it into a new age, he employed her to create the deck for him. It is alleged that they worked together for the major arcana and for the minor arcana, so the majors are like Judgment, the Fool, all the big names. And then there's ones that kind of, if you don't know, they don't have the names on them.
Gotcha.
They're the ones that she kind of went off and worked on herself.
Yeah.
Which is wild because within this kind of it took her 6 months to create these 80 pictures of the tarot deck.
I'm not surprised. Like that, a tarot deck is quite large.
Yeah, so it took her 6 months, which is actually pretty short, I reckon.
Yeah.
For 80 pieces of work. I've got them right here.
Ooh. In a little spooky cloth.
As always. All right, there you go. That's her work. Right there.
I love it. This is the kind of tarot. Oh, I love it. Love it. Love it. Queen of Swords. Yeah, this is like traditional looking.
So this was kind of the first time the tarot had been depicted with more symbolism and meaning in the pictures. Before it was kind of more just a bit like a card game, less symbolism.
Love High Priestess.
Oh, she's one of the best.
Yeah.
So during this period, she created the 80 pictures. Waite gave her a small fee, but when he published the cards, he actually didn't give her any credit at all.
Jerk.
Yeah. She never got any residuals for this body of work that she did.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at every card, there is a tiny calling card that she left on every single one, mind in the pun. She had a tiny signature on every single card.
Yeah, I see what it is. It's the like stick with the swirly.
Yeah, so if you look at it closely, it's actually a P, C, and an S.
Oh, yep.
So that was her signature. She had derived that from Printmakers of Japan as an idea. The only one I believe that doesn't have it on there is the Fool, which is...
Oh, because she didn't want to put her name on the Fool.
Yeah, and I think that was probably a little jab at old mate. So it is said that her use of color and symbolism in her work is because she had synesthesia, which is where you see color through sound and light. So
Lord has it.
Yes, and is it Maggie Rogers has it as well, I think?
Yeah, she seems like she would.
She would.
Yeah.
She'd tell everyone about it.
Yeah, there's the Fool. Her signature isn't on it.
So there you go. She didn't sign it. So the reason
she won't be the Fool.
She won't be the Fool in this situation. So the only reason why we know that she created this work is because we found her work and we found the signature on it.
Yeah,
That's the only reason. Otherwise, she would have been lost in history. After creating this work, she kind of disappeared from the art world. She really didn't. She just kind of went and lived in a small country town in the UK.
Yeah, right.
She never really did a lot of art again.
Oh.
She just kind of disappeared. I don't think it was because she wanted, I think she just chose to do that.
Wanted to do her own thing.
Yeah, so she never married or had children. She lived with a friend named Nora for around 30 years.
Who didn't?
I know.
Live with a friend named Nora. Everyone's got a friend named
Nora. It was unknown whether this was a romantic relationship. However, she lived with this woman for 30 years.
Yeah, most likely.
I know. She never really amassed a fortune from her work and she died at the age of 73.
She did all right.
Yeah. So on all accounts, none of the original tarot drawings survived. They don't have any of them anywhere.
Just the ones in syndication on the deck.
Yeah. So the originals, we don't know where they are. The first exhibition after her death from what I can find, was in 1975. And that's when we started to realize who she was as a person.
That would have been cool to go to.
Do you want to pull a card, see what your fortune has to say for you?
Yes. Ooh, give it a knock.
Give it a knock.
Okay. Really got cold.
Ooh. What is it?
The Empress sounds about right.
All right. It's all about embracing your femininity. I can't speak today. Feminine side.
Yes. My
Embracing
feminine
your
mystique.
Feminine side. It's about looking and seeing things from a more gentle perspective, not having to be cutthroat. If there is a situation that is currently arising in your life, it would probably say, just kind of come across from it in a like gentler sense. Like you don't need to be vicious and on the attack all the time.
That sounds a bit like me. But I've never been known to embrace my feminine side. So
Never.
That's definitely
out of
something
character.
I'll look at.
Yeah, and I would say, there's always something coming on the horizon. One end does not mean that like a new beginning is not on its way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, that is the witchy hour. The witching hour.
Woo.
So
down the witch's road.
I could talk about witches for hours.
I find it also fascinating, such a tragic history with women who were deemed somewhat different or who thought for their goddamn selves.
Yeah, had some semblance of personality.
Yeah.
Didn't go to church.
Oh, no.
Rich.
But yeah, it's still kind of cool that it's like it's something that is still practiced to this day, and it's not all like ghouls and goblins and cauldrons and eating children. It's more of a connection to your own spirituality and all of that. And power to the witches.
Power to the witches. I think, I always kind of guess, but I think reading up on it and realizing and the affinity that I guess a lot of queer women have to witches.
Yeah, witchcraft is very queer.
Yeah, it's probably because a lot of the time in history it was queer women who were classed as these devilish witches. Cast aside, and I was like, this all kind of makes sense that it still is prevalent today, and we're all like, go witches, love them. Somehow we're all still drawn to it because it's somewhat our history, I guess.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Any thoughts, any feelings before we wrap it up, Jill?
No, it's every now and again I think oh my God, in the 1400s there was gay guys and lesbians still there.
Just being called witches.
Just being called witches, but also just gossiping with each other.
Yeah, chit-chatting.
Yeah.
Probably everyone's...
At brunch.
Yeah, at drag brunch.
Drag brunch.
Just in my mind, always smoking.
Yeah, we've managed to get cigarettes back then.
Back into the rotation.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's it. That's everything.
That's the end of our spooky month.
Spooky season. We told you it was the end in another episode. Will we leave it in or cut it out?
Yeah, no, that's right. No, it could, well, who knows?
Who knows?
That's the mystery.
That's the mystery. Keep you guessing.
Keep you guessing, witches.
Witches. I hope you had a spooky Halloween, no matter where, or you are about to have a spooky Halloween.
Yes.
Leave us a spooky review.
Spooky. Tell us a spooky story.
Yes,
in the
leave
review.
a review and tell us a spooky story.
Yes.
Why not?
Also, if anyone's had a haunting or something weird happen to them, message us or something. We want to see what. Yeah.
Leave us a voice message.
We love that
we'll
shit.
Play it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully we can do more spooky episodes again.
Yes.
There's so
well, if we're still hovering around on our broomsticks next October,
I think we will.
We'll do a sequel.
Ooh, not the sequel. All right, well, have a good weekend.
Goodbye.